That sounds good. You are also here in spirit. I don't know if you saw.
Oh, look at that. A much more animated version of me next to you. Hello, everyone. We are live. Welcome to Coin Bureau live from warm and sticky Singapore. Sometimes warm, sometimes sticky, always Singapore. And Jessica, you're back in Dubai. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's good to talk to you all week because I've been seeing what's been going on in Singapore. It seems like half of the crypto community is out there at the moment. The industry is thriving. And I'm here in the Coin Bureau HQ with Zara. We've been holding down the fort. So good to catch up. I'm excited to hear what's been going on in Singapore. How's it been?
Yeah. It has been great. Shall we start off with that? I know there's a few bits of sort of crypto news that we're going to cover as well. But do you want to start off by hearing about all my adventures in Singapore at Token
I,
2049 and elsewhere?
I would love to. And I think that everyone that is listening as well, we are really curious to see what has been going on because from crypto Twitter, it looks like there is kind of thousands of people at this conference. It's where everything is going down. People have flown in from the US. So, has it lived up to the hype?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, yeah. First of all, I should say a big welcome to everyone watching as well. Thanks for joining us today, guys. We're going to go for about half an hour or so. I'm going to fill you guys in on what I've been hearing and seeing here in Singapore at Token 2049, as Jessica said, and then Jessica will take us through some of the news items that have been making the headlines in crypto this week. But yeah, thank you for joining us. As ever, we have people from all over, someone from the moon and someone from Mauritius and Chicagoland and France and everywhere else. I'm glad someone's on the moon. That makes a nice change. Well, I'll start off. Do you want to see the weirdest bit of crypto swag that I got this week?
Absolutely.
So if anyone could tell me what this is, I was given this by the good people at Tron. I interviewed Justin Sun on Wednesday, and it had to be a video interview in the end, even though we're in the same city. His security people decided that it had to be video, but they gave us some swag, and it included this. And I honestly have really no idea what it is. It's yeah. So if anyone can shed some light on what it is, it's got a little nose ring there, and it just doesn't really do anything, but just sits there. So that's the weirdest bit of swag.
Is it really
A
boomer
thing.
of us if we think that it's a doorstop and then it can't hold any higher technology than just wedging the door open just so it doesn't close behind you? That's all I can think of at this
Yeah,
point.
it is quite weighty. Whether it will keep a door open. Anyhow, is it wearing a pause button? That's a good question, Tom Struct. Yeah, that does look a bit like a pause button, doesn't it?
It looks
Yeah,
like a dinosaur.
interesting. Definitely a dinosaur. Yeah. Yes, anyhow, so Singapore, Token 2049. So we landed here on Monday night, first time in Singapore. Tuesday was a summit meeting, because you know how these conferences work. Like, there's the conference itself, but then there's tons of kind of side events, parties, all that sort of stuff happening around it. So on Tuesday, we had a BitGet summit, BitGet EmpowerX summit, and I was speaking on a panel there. That was really interesting. So I was on a panel with Alexander Dreyfus, the CEO of Chili's, Michael Groniger, the CEO of Chainalysis, with Johan Turpin, one of the co-founders of Wintermute, Annabelle Huang from Amber Group. And we had a really interesting discussion about regulations with a kind of focus on Asia, and that was really fascinating. And I learned some interesting things there. Michael from Chainalysis said that according to what they're seeing, there's an interesting thing. Whereas in the US, a lot of people kind of look to crypto as a kind of form of passive income.
Mhm.
So, and that's a very sort of American thing, to have this second income, or maybe even third, fourth, or fifth income, you know, if both people in a household are working, and a lot of people see crypto in that sort of way. So that was really interesting. Whereas here in Asia, it's a lot more speculative. You know, there is a gambling aspect to it in a way. We learned that Korea is a much bigger market than I think a lot of people realized. So that was really fascinating. I think we have talked before about how sometimes Korean exchanges, I'm thinking particularly Upbit, have actually been sort of responsible for driving quite a lot of the traffic, making up quite a lot of the trading volume for particular coins and tokens at particular times, especially when the rest of the market globally is quite quiet. So yeah, the Koreans are really into it in a big way. It is still kind of largely speculative, but I thought that was really interesting. And in general, from that panel and from talking to people afterwards at that particular BitGet event, that was a good way to start, because people were feeling really bullish on Asia, really bullish on the sector in general. And there was a real sense that, even though things are pretty dicey in the US right now, all the court cases, the SEC on the rampage, etc., Binance and Coinbase being sued, there was a real sense that this is an opportunity for Asia to take up the mantle. And lots of people were saying, there's no reason why a lot more companies aren't going to migrate from the US out to this way. Obviously, there was talk of other places like Dubai, where we're based, Europe as well. But in general, people weren't feeling too down about what was happening in the States. And I get the feeling that Asia is, not a separate ecosystem, but it doesn't necessarily need what's happening in the US to affect it much. There's still loads of interest. There's still loads going on. So that was really positive.
It's really interesting you say that, because Scott Melker, the Wolf of Wall Street, tweeted out that he had some friends that were in permissionless. He was at a few conferences last month, and the difference in buzz, I think, between the US conferences, he was saying a majority of the booths and exhibitors are accountants or lawyers in the United States crypto conferences. And then over in Asia, TOKEN2049 just looked absolutely buzzing, with different exchanges showcasing what they're offering, and different platforms really kind of looking to draw in the mass market of 10,000 people, I think, were recorded going. So the buzz and energy, you can feel it online from the kind of Singapore-based conference, which is great for us all to see. I think we needed to have that little bit of kick of reassurance in what typically is quite a red market September.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And yeah, sort of, we went to the conference the next day, TOKEN2049 itself, and that was on the Wednesday and the Thursday. And again, like, the mood there was just really, really upbeat. I don't think over 2 days, we had our interview room where we were talking to various people. So we talked with Richard Teng, the head of regional markets at Binance. That was a really interesting chat we had with him. And then we had to go off and sort of chase Justin Sun around town for a little bit before I basically just interviewed him here from my hotel room on a webcam. Which was quite strange, but again, quite an interesting talk with Justin. I think that will be coming out fairly soon, so people can make of that what they will. But yeah, the vibe at the conference was really, really good. I spoke to quite a few people. Because it's sort of more of a B2B event. Kind of everyone was there. It's one of those sort of more expensive events. It's not so much aimed at retail investors. So, like, virtually everyone there was working in the industry in some capacity, and it was really upbeat. No one, I don't think, over the 2 days, and all the people I spoke to, no one talked about price. No one really was dwelling on the fact that sentiment is quite low and prices have been going sideways and what's happening in the US. It was really very much focused on all the hype around Asia, and people are building some really cool projects. And I think that was the other big takeaway that I had. GameFi in particular, that's obviously huge here in Asia. Asia, you know, people here are sort of very, you know, there's a lot of gamers in this part of the world and a lot of GameFi projects being built. But the cool thing was that everyone I spoke to who was involved with something like that was keen to stress that they were, you know, they were focusing on gameplay first. You know, that was what they wanted to get right. And then the token aspect of it, you know, the NFTs or whatever it might be, that could come second. But it really seemed to me like people had figured now that if GameFi is going to be big, if the next killer app is going to be a blockchain based game of some sort, then it has to be about awesome gameplay before anything else. So that's made me feel a lot more optimistic that we might well see a killer app come from GameFi. And I think whether or not we have, you know, one particular thing that absolutely blows up, I think GameFi sort of 2.0, if you like, is on the horizon, and I think it's going to blow sort of everything that came before it out of the water. So really excited to see that. That's really positive, I think.
And it shows that people are still building in this market condition as well, because I think it's very easy when you are working from home or in a different region and you are looking at prices and to think that there might be a stagnation in developments. But when you go to conferences, like you've said, that are B2B, you can really see the developments year on year, and you get to speak to the people that are behind these projects and hear what they're working on. So maybe it's made you a little bit more bullish on GameFi. What do you think?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I saw a few screenshots, a few quick demos of what people were working on. They look to be some really cool stuff. I'm going to reserve judgment. You know, I think maybe I'm a good test case for something like a blockchain game because I'm so sort of old and past it. And I, you know, basically remember playing a few sort of computer games when I was younger, but I wasn't really a gamer. So I think if someone can come up with something that impresses me, then maybe, you know, maybe that could be it. So yeah, I am feeling a lot more bullish on that sector. Um, and another thing that I really noticed as well, I spoke to a lot of people about this, and like people seem to be working on slightly more, I'd say, boring stuff as well. But by that I mean things like, you know, UI and UX, like really important stuff. It's not the most flashy, it's not some cool new game or necessarily some cool new app, but loads of people seem to have realized that, like, if we're going to have, if we're going to have another bull market, if we're going to get new people coming into the space and getting involved, then it has to be an easier experience than what it was for us in 2021 and before. And I think we have seen that progress over crypto cycles in the past. But I think for this next bull market, we have to level up big time. You know, we have to have DeFi protocols that are simple for easy for almost anyone to interact with. And of course, they've got to be safe. They've got to be secure. But I think they've got to be usable as well. And you know, a guy maybe in the Midwest United States has got to be comfortable going on this thing to get a loan for a new truck or something. Or someone in the north of Scotland has got to be happy to, you know, to use it to buy their online shopping with or something like that, or to get a loan or whatever it's got to be, you know. And there is a real sense here that people are working on that UI and UX side of it. And again, that was something that made me feel very bullish. I was like, I think we're going to get these. I think we're going to see upgrades to some of the DeFi protocols, you know, some of the wallets, some of the other applications that we know and love already. But I think there's going to be a new generation coming through that are just the UX is going to blow anything that we've seen in DeFi and elsewhere out of the water. So that's really exciting too.
This makes me so happy because I think one of the first things, and I'm sure everyone else that is kind of watching in as well can agree with, when you first signed up to crypto, if it was kind of sub 2019, the UX and UI was really clunky. I remember Bitfinex was my exchange of choice. And I was like, this is just quite stressful to operate and navigate. And it does deter people, and crypto is not intuitive until you buy some crypto. Until you get on that bandwagon, it's difficult to onboard new users. So having a easier UX UI interface, which doesn't automatically mean that because it's a nice and simplistic use, the fees are going to be higher on the centralized exchange of choice. That just makes it so much easier to onboard that next wave of users. So that's great news. I like to hear that.
Yeah, it's good. It's really it's really bullish for the future, I think. So yeah, so that was kind of some of the main takeaways I found. That on the on the less positive side, for instance, VC money, VCs aren't really piling in, and you can see that elsewhere. There are plenty of statistics that have come out about that recently. There are still kind of big outflows from institutional funds in crypto. But again, I spoke to a few institutional people there. We interviewed Dan Tapiero, who I know from One Roundtable Holdings and others, and he is ridiculously bullish on the space long term. And he was saying that so many people have had their minds really changed, their mindsets really changed by Larry Fink from BlackRock, coming out with this ETF. People are that people with serious money in places like the United States and elsewhere are sitting up and going, hang on a sec, what's going on? So yeah, and look, Token 2049, it was great. I thought it was really well organized. They were sold out. 10,000 people, 10,000 tickets had been sold, and it looked like pretty much everyone had turned up. So many projects were there, pretty much any projects you can think of. Loads of ones that I hadn't heard of as well. Everyone had a booth. Everyone had loads of representatives there, and it was fast. Walking through the Marina Bay Sands Convention Center. And I could have been in there for hours. So it was great. It was great. I'm glad I came. I've seen lots to make me bullish, and I'm gonna bring that upbeat mood back to Dubai next week, I hope.
And you look fairly fresh, considering you look like you've had your good 8 hours of sleep each night. Someone in the comments has said, we're glad to see that Guy is alive. I am too, because these conferences, I know how exhausting they can be. I think Token 2049 had 450 side events. So I was thinking, you're probably not going to get much sleep. It's going to be back to back. So it's great to see that you're thriving on the energy of the conference. Did you get to go to any panels or keynote discussions and sit in the audience, or was it just back-to-back interviews and meetings?
Well, I tried a couple of times. So I was sort of shut away doing interviews for quite a bit. I was annoyed that I had to leave on Wednesday, sort of midday, in order to do this thing with Justin Sun. Although that was great to do. But so Thursday, yesterday, I was like, I'm gonna go to see some stuff. So we had our kind of interview room when we were based, and I would go out and I'd sort of walk a few meters, and then someone would come up and say hi, and we'd start talking, and then do a selfie, and then I'd walk a few more meters, and it would happen again. And so I got to meet loads of people, but I kept missing all the events. So eventually, at the end of yesterday, I managed to get in. A project was hosting a discussion with Arthur Hayes and Balaji Srinivasan, two of the big sort of keynote speakers of the conference, and they were talking alongside the CEO of a project called Nillion, and they were talking about kind of applications beyond the blockchain, and just kind of giving their opinion on kind of what comes next. The key takeaway, I think, was Arthur Hayes. Arthur Hayes sees that, I think, what he called the mother of all bull markets, that is going to peak sometime around 2026. This is Arthur Hayes speaking, and then he thinks it's going to get pretty dodgy after that. So yeah, if Arthur is right, 2026 is going to be pretty cool, pretty crazy, and then who knows what happens after that. So yeah, I did. So I was glad. I really wanted to see Arthur Hayes, because he's one of my sort of heroes in crypto, and it was great to sort of see him in the flesh. Balaji was great as well. It was a really good discussion. So I managed to see something right at the death and then we sort of had to head off, beat the crowds, and get back. We were supposed to go to a party at the big nightclub here. I can't remember what it's called, and none of us were feeling it. So we ducked out and had some dinner instead. But I've sort of avoided most of the side events because I know that I just haven't got the stamina for it. So that's why I'm sort of looking perhaps relatively fresh. But tomorrow I'm going to a gala dinner tonight. So tomorrow maybe, who knows? I might not make it.
Which is why we're doing the live stream on Friday, guys. So you are lucky you get to see Guy in his prime pre-closing party. Like, you have a glass of champagne. You deserve it.
Thank you, Jessica. I will. I'll have a glass and raise it to all of you guys back in Dubai, holding the fort. On that note, do you want to take us through then? So that was Token 2049 and Singapore. Do you want to take us through some of the stories that have been in the news the last week or so?
Yes, I would love to. So part of me was like, oh God, now that Guy is away, is it going to be that everything breaks and there's so much crypto news to cover and we're running around like headless chickens here in Dubai's HQ? Fairly calm news week. So there has been quite a few updates. One of the news breaks actually came from Token 2049. One of the kind of talking points was Tron's Huobi's rebrand to TRX, which is kind of an interesting name, very similar to the FTX exchange. Did you ask Justin about that at all? Did he disclose his thoughts?
No, so I spoke to him earlier in the day, and then that rebrand to HTX came out a bit later on. And I was reading that, I was like, oh, what a missed opportunity, because I would really have wanted to ask him about I think I tweeted later that day. I was like, did anyone workshop this? Did anyone kind of stick their hand up at any point and be sort of like, it's a little bit like FTX, doesn't it? But yeah, that was pretty crazy. Yeah, that certainly put a smile on my face.
So there was the Huobi rebrand. We saw Vitalik being victim to a SIM swap, which hacked into his Twitter account, and a scam came up, which was a pretty heavy thing. And also it just shows some of the smartest people in the industry still can fall victim to SIM swap attacks. So I think it just really underlines to everyone, 2FA, I think Vitalik had even mentioned that since Elon has kind of come under reins of X, that was Twitter, there have been some issues with storing your phone number, and 2FA following through from that. So for everyone that is in the industry, I think security is important for all of us to know. That was a big one that stood out for me this week as a kind of reminder. And then we saw Telegram, we saw the TON token and the TON network. TON was up 7% earlier this week. And I think we covered it on the Coin Bureau Telegram channel as well, when it was 12% up on the week. And that was the Telegram integration of the crypto wallet into the Web3 ecosystem, which is a pretty exciting development when it comes to building in the bear market and seeing these real world integrations come into the world of crypto, helping people get in and out easier. We spoke about MetaMask and their wallet integrations just a few weeks ago. So it's great to see that Telegram and TON have come on board as well.
Yeah. And of course, Telegram has, hundreds of millions of users, doesn't it? So that the implications of this integration are massive long term.
Absolutely, 600 million users. And you can't help but wonder if one of the reasons why they are moving this forward quite aggressively, we've seen quite a lot of news of TON token in the past few weeks, is maybe because Elon Musk is coming out with potentially having a crypto payments integrated into X. There have been rumors of that brewing as well. So we're seeing two of the major social media powerhouses going forward with some crypto adoption. So as you've mentioned from Singapore, there's a lot of building and a lot of behind the scenes going ahead. And I think us as retail users are starting to see that come through in the mainstream crypto news, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah. And I must say, actually, that reminds me, one of the other takeaways that I got, I'm trying to remember who I was talking to about this, but they were saying that so many, like virtually every major Web2 company, and even, companies that you wouldn't necessarily say are sort of tech companies, but everyone they're all talking about Web3. They're all thinking about how they integrate Web3 into their operations. And there's this growing sort of class of people who are, Web3 experts who are going out and consulting for these companies. And there is so much demand for it. And whether that takes the form of token integrations or NFTs or whatever it might be, or employing some sort of blockchain, Web2, traditional companies are getting on board, and the Web3 revolution is happening, and it's crazy now because really what these Web3 consultants are starting to realize is that when they talk to C-suite people, when they talk to people at the top of these companies, they don't really care how a blockchain works. They don't really care about consensus. They don't really care about proof of work versus proof of stake, et cetera, et cetera. They don't really, and I think, they don't, and I think it's fair to say the general public don't really care about NFTs. And I mean, you might say that's obvious given the state of the NFT market, but what I mean is, like, people don't necessarily want an NFT, and they don't want to know they're getting an NFT. What they want is a cool product, a cool thing that can appear on their phone and that they can send, or that can send to someone else, or use as a ticket to get into a venue, or whatever it is. And so the language is starting to change. Even though like Web3 and NFTs are both kind of swear words in some sectors at the moment, that disguises the fact that the revolution is happening. And it's just, people just sort of have this kind of knee-jerk reaction when they hear those words, but in actual fact, it's all coming together behind the scenes. So that was another thing that made me feel really bullish as well.
Completely agree with you. And this is why payments is such a massive ecosystem for blockchain entities to tap into, because faster, more scalable, cheaper for them to run. So the behind the scenes is really moving ahead in quite an interesting way. We covered Solana a few weeks ago on the live stream. So very, very exciting times indeed. I did almost get the giggles while you were speaking, because someone in the comments asked if you were a werewolf, and that nearly made me giggle while you were making a very valid point. So apologies for that. I nearly lost face. We kept it strong.
I'm looking back through now. Yeah. People accusing me of shaving around my eyes. Good grief, Guy, please shave before the party. I'm not a werewolf, folks. It's all right.
That one got me. That was the comment of the day.
Comment of the day. I'll try and scroll back through and find it and put it up there. Any other bits of news, Jessica, that caught your eye?
Yes. So we also saw news that BitGet have announced that they're going to have a new fund, which is a $100 million fund for investing in the ecosystem, which is kind of focusing on their regional exchange and media organizations. And it will target Web3 friendly ventures that are predominantly based out of Asia, but they will have a global presence. So this was something that came out this week. I think BitGet, as I understand, I've seen photos that they had a booth at TOKEN2049. So I'm guessing they made the announcement during TOKEN2049. But again, this is kind of a bullish indicator. There is additional money and assets and resources being thrown into the industry, being backed by some of these leading exchanges. I know that you've interviewed Gracie on the channel before, guys. So Gracie made a quote which was saying the fund is another major step in the company's mission to make BitGet a platform that really provides the needs to crypto users. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of projects and entities they're looking to focus on and give additional resources to, and how it helps amplify the space. And again, also interesting that they had an Asia focus. So as you mentioned earlier, a lot of talent, potentially GameFi coming out of Asia. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe we'll touch base with Gracie and see what she's looking into in a few weeks after the Token 2049 dust settles from the Singapore conference.
Yeah, 100%. I did bump into Gracie actually whilst we were here and had a chat with her, and BitGet and lots of other exchanges. We got a tour of the OKX offices earlier today, me and some of the team. Those guys are those guys are investing a heck of a lot of money. You know, they are pouring money not only into, you know, building out the products. And I think this is one of the things that exchanges are starting to focus on now. They're starting to look beyond just being places where you can go and buy and sell coins and tokens. You know, they're looking at other services that they can offer. Some are even starting to integrate, you know, decentralized exchanges into, you know, into their main offering. So there is, you know, again, there is still huge amounts of investment happening. There is a heck of a lot happening behind the scenes as well from the exchange point of view. And BitGet was celebrating their 5th birthday, which was pretty cool. And it's been, you know, it's been interesting to see, because obviously over the last few months, because of regulatory FUD and things like that, places like Binance have been losing market share. Places like OKX, BitGet, and others, you know, have started to take some of that market share. It's starting to level up a bit. Binance is still the market leader by a long way. But interestingly, the consensus is, and I think a lot of people from Binance would agree with this as well, it's like, we don't want a market where there's one entity that's miles ahead. We want a market where it's spread, where people have lots of choice, where, you know, it's not just, and also, you know, because that makes the market, that makes them, that all those entities sort of stronger as well, so they can push back against, you know, things like unreasonable regulation, that they can be more effective lobbyists and that sort of thing. So seeing a lot of progress there. And you know, I said to Gracie that, you know, it was BitGet's 5th birthday was a good sort of time to just, for them and all the other exchanges, to remember, you know, just what powerful positions they're in, and how important it is that they learn the lessons of, you know, what happened with FTX, etc., and, you know, put user safety, customer funds above all else. You know, they have to be better than ever before, and they have to keep working on that. And she said that, you know, that was a huge part of their focus as well, you know, keeping users safe, learning the lessons of past disasters. So again, let's you know, let's hope that that becomes a theme of the next bull market as well, that we, you know, we get the centralized exchanges that we need, and also, you know, the UI and the UX to make the decentralized ecosystem that much more usable as well.
Yeah, and competition is so healthy in this industry as well. And I think you really underlined with BitGet's 5th year anniversary and Huobi's Rebrand happening 10 years on their 10-year anniversary too, just how early we all are. So for everyone listening, we're here first. It's still so early into crypto. The industry is evolving as we're accumulating, which is which is great to see. So we're all going to make it, guys.
We are all going to make it. We are all going to make it. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been a very positive week. So I will be back to Dubai early next week. Well, I'm flying back on Monday night. So Jessica, you'll be helming the news again. Wonderful job this week. Keep it up. And then Tuesday we'll be back at it. I think I'm going to be hosting a Twitter Spaces. We're going to be talking about just going to do again, like a bit of an update from Token 2049 and a bit of a market update as well. So we'll be talking about some of that. And yeah, lots more to come this week and next.
Amazing. Well, you are here in spirit. We do have a guy that is joining the live as well from Dubai. And we will let
I'm sure a lot more insightful and personable than the real one.
So we'll let you get back to the Token 2049 Singapore antics, but I think I can speak on behalf of everyone. Thank you for joining us so we can hear what's going on. And it's like we're here, we're there in spirit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, yeah, sending lots of love to you guys back in the office in Dubai, and lots of love to everyone watching. Thank you for tuning in, guys. And yeah, we'll be back. I'll be back in the office next week, but lots more content still coming your way. So don't go anywhere. See you all soon. Okay, and we are